All right, you magnificent bastards, strap in. Today, we're going balls deep into the ass-kicking war machine that was the Mongol Empire.
Hmm.
You think you've got problems?
Yeah.
Try facing down these dudes on horseback. We're cracking open Wikipedia to learn how Genghis Khan and his hordes
Right.
conquered most of Asia and terrified Europe.
Hmm.
Seriously, how the hell did they manage that?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Let's cut the crap and get into it.
Or-
With our expert, they spent way too much time thinking about this shit.
Yeah, probably too long, actually.
We're talking horses for days, badass armor, and weapons that would make a modern soldier shit himself.
It's true. They were a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure.
All right, so first up, those Mongol horses. I mean, those weren't just ponies. They were practically supercars, right?
Yeah, exactly. Each warrior had like 3 or 4 horses, and they'd swap them out constantly to keep up an insane pace.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Think of it like a built-in pit crew, only way more badass. It's one of the reasons they could cover vast distances so quickly.
So it's like having a fresh set of tires every 100 miles,
Yeah, pretty much.
except with, hooves and snorting and whatnot.
Exactly, yeah.
No wonder those other armies couldn't keep up. They'd be stuck in the dust wondering what the hell just happened.
Oh, yeah, they'd be eating their dust for sure. And, they didn't just ride those horses hard.
Right.
They protected them, too. We're talking lamellar armor, 5 pieces covering the entire horse.
Wow.
This wasn't just for show. It was about keeping those horses in the fight.
Hold on. Back up a sec. Lamellar armor. For those of us who aren't, medieval warfare nerds, what the hell is that?
Right, good point.
Yeah.
Imagine small plates of iron or horn laced together, almost like a flexible coat of mail.
Oh, okay.
It provided surprisingly good protection against arrows and swords, and it was lighter than you might think.
Okay. That makes sense. I guess you don't want your ride getting skewered in the middle of a charge.
No, definitely not.
But let's talk about the guys riding those horses. The Mongol warriors themselves.
Right.
What made these guys such absolute terrors?
Well, picture this. You're some poor bastard on a battlefield facing down a horde of Mongol warriors.
Yeah, that's not an image I want in my head right before bedtime.
No, probably not. They'd be decked out in layers of armor. Iron scales, chainmail, hardened leather.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes all 3. We're talking 10 kilos of pure badassery.
Jesus.
And get this, it was often waterproof.
Really?
These guys were prepared for anything.
Waterproof armor, damn. They were serious about this whole conquering thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It protected them from the elements as well as enemy weapons.
So we've got our horses, we've got our armor, and now it's time to unleash hell. Let's talk about the weapons that made the Mongol army a force of nature.
Right.
And I've heard some seriously messed up things about their bows.
Oh, yeah. The Mongol bow was like a masterpiece of engineering.
Really?
They used a composite construction of horn, wood, and sinew,
Mm-hmm.
which gave it incredible power and range.
Don't get all technical on me.
Sure.
Just tell me, how far could these things shoot?
Yeah.
Could they hit a target from across a football field?
Think more like 2 football fields.
Oh, wow.
We're talking over 200 meters?
Seriously?
And with impressive accuracy.
Damn.
And they didn't just have 1 or 2 arrows. Each warrior carried a quiver holding 60 arrows.
Holy shit, that's a lot of arrows.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you dodged one. Cool, here comes 59 more. No wonder. Everyone was so terrified of these guys.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they were incredibly versatile, too. Mongol archers often carried multiple bows,
Really?
A heavier one for dismounted combat,
Yep.
and a lighter one specifically designed for use on horseback.
So they could basically rain down arrows on you, no matter what the situation.
Pretty much, eh?
Talk about a nightmare scenario.
Hmm.
But they didn't just use bows and arrows, right? Weren't they some of the first to use gunpowder?
Yeah, that's right. While they are most famous for their horse archery, the Mongols were quick to adopt gunpowder weapons.
Really?
They first encountered these during their wars with the Chinese dynasties and immediately saw their potential.
Wait, so they saw these crazy explosions and were like, we need that shit.
Pretty much. Yeah, they weren't afraid to innovate and incorporate new technologies into their arsenal, and it gave them a serious edge.
Give us an example. I'm guessing this involves some serious fuck you to their enemies.
Oh, yeah, for sure. One famous example is the Siege of Kaifeng in 1232.
Wait.
The Mongols used a variety of gunpowder weapons alongside their traditional siege tactics.
So we're talking about bombs and shit. What kind of bombs did they have back then?
They had things like the heaven-shaking thunder bomb, which was packed with gunpowder and shrapnel.
Okay, that's a badass name.
Yeah.
And then there was the flying fire lance, which was essentially an early form of flamethrower.
Wow.
Imagine defending a city.
And suddenly you're facing explosions, fire, and thousands of screaming Mongol warriors.
I'd be shitting bricks, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's like a medieval Michael Bay movie, except with, actual historical accuracy. But that's not all. They had some other interesting tactics, shall we say.
Yeah, they did. Well, let's talk about something a little less exciting, but just as crucial to their success, the Karash.
Ooh, Karash. Sounds exotic. Is that like some kind of fancy Mongol tea ceremony?
Not quite. The Karash was essentially a human shield. They'd take prisoners from previous battles and force them to fight on the front lines.
Oh, well, it's considerably less fun. But I guess it's effective in a totally fucked up kind of way.
Right.
Who wants to charge into an army that's got a bunch of terrified dudes running ahead of them?
Yeah, exactly. It was a brutal tactic, but it protected the Mongol warriors and had a huge psychological impact on the enemy. Imagine seeing that coming at you. It would be pretty damn demoralizing.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Makes you wonder if any of those poor bastards in the Karash ever managed to, turn the tables or something.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm tired of being a meat shield. Let's take down these assholes.
It definitely happened, though not often. There are accounts of prisoners rebelling or even switching sides during a battle.
Oh.
But for the most part, it was a pretty effective way for the Mongols to minimize their own casualties.
Grim, but true. So aside from using human shields, what else made the Mongols so good at kicking ass on the battlefield?
Well, for one, their army was incredibly well organized. They used a decimal system with units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 warriors.
Okay.
Think of it like a giant lethal Lego set.
Okay, so they were organized.
Right.
But how did they actually fight? Was it just a massive free-for-all?
Not at all. They had a variety of sophisticated tactics, including flanking maneuvers, feigned retreats, and encirclement.
Wait, back up. Feigned retreats. So they'd pretend to run away and then, turn around and kick everyone's ass?
Exactly. It was a high-risk, high-reward tactic.
Right.
But when it worked, it was devastating.
Yeah.
They'd lure the enemy out thinking they were winning,
Right.
and then, bam, hammer them with a surprise attack.
That's some next-level shit right there.
Yeah.
I can just imagine the other army thinking they're hot shit, chasing after these retreating Mongols.
Right.
And then suddenly they're surrounded and getting their asses handed to them. Talk about a bad day at the office.
Yeah, exactly. And don't forget about their psychological warfare. They were masters at messing with their enemies' heads, exaggerating their numbers, spreading rumors, creating dust clouds to make themselves seem bigger.
So it's like, we've got 1 million guys over here, and we're all bloodthirsty maniacs.
Yeah.
Even if it was mostly bullshit, I bet it worked like a charm.
It absolutely did, yeah. They knew that fear was a weapon, and they used it brilliantly.
Right.
They'd break the enemy's morale before the fighting even started.
Smart.
Yeah.
So you got these badass warriors, these crazy tactics, this psychological warfare, but they also had a huge empire, right? I mean, we're talking most of Asia and a good chunk of Europe. How the hell did they communicate across such vast distances?
Right.
Did they have, Mongol carrier pigeons with tiny scrolls strapped to their legs?
Funnier than you might think. They had a system called the Urto, which was essentially a network of relay stations. Messages could be transmitted incredibly quickly across the empire.
So it's like the Pony Express on steroids. That's actually pretty damn impressive for the 13th century.
Yeah.
No wonder they were so good at coordinating their attacks. They were always one step ahead.
Exactly. The Urto was a vital part of their success. It allowed them to quickly gather intelligence, send orders, and keep their vast empire connected.
Right.
But beyond the tactics and technology, there's another crucial factor in their success: the incorporation of conquered peoples.
Wait, they let the people they conquered join their army? That seems a bit risky.
It was, but it was also a strategic masterstroke. They'd take the best warriors, the skilled engineers, the talented administrators from the people they conquered and integrate them into their own forces.
So it's like, hey, thanks for putting up a fight. Now get over here and help us conquer your neighbors.
Yeah.
Ballsy move, but I guess it worked.
It did, for the most part. It gave them a diverse and incredibly skilled fighting force. You'd have Mongol cavalry charging alongside Chinese gunpowder experts, Persian archers, siege engineers from all over their empire.
That's a melting pot of ass kicking right there. It's like the Avengers, only way more brutal and with less spandex. But I'm guessing it wasn't all sunshine and roses.
You're right. Managing such a diverse army wasn't easy. There were rebellions, cultural clashes, and plenty of resentment towards the Mongol leadership.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like, hey, thanks for conquering my land and killing my family. Now, where do I sign up to help you do the same to everyone else? Not exactly a recipe for loyalty.
Exactly. But despite the challenges, the Mongols' ability to incorporate conquered peoples was a key factor in their rapid expansion and dominance.
Right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about their crazy horses, their badass armor, their terrifying weapons, their brilliant tactics, their mind games, their communication system, and even their knack for turning enemies into allies. Anything else we should know about these guys?
Well, we could talk for hours about the intricacies of Mongol warfare, but I think we've covered the main points.
Yeah, I think my brain is officially full of Mongol mayhem. It's amazing how much ass these guys kicked, considering they started out as a bunch of nomadic tribes.
It is truly remarkable. They went from living in yurts and herding sheep to ruling one of the largest empires in history, and they did it all within a few generations.
Talk about a serious glow-up. But their empire eventually crumbled, right? They're not exactly running the world today. What the hell happened? Did all those pissed-off conquered people finally get their revenge?
Well, there were a lot of factors. Internal strife, succession disputes, overextension of their territory. They faced rebellions from within and enemies from without.
So basically, it was like a giant game of whack-a-mole, but with empires instead of moles.
That's a surprisingly accurate analogy, but even though their empire fractured, their impact on the world was undeniable.
No kidding. They left a pretty big mark on history.
They opened up trade routes between East and West, spread new technologies and ideas, and even contributed to a period of relative peace and stability known as the Pax Mongolica.
Wait, hold on. The Pax Mongolica, these bloodthirsty conquerors brought about a period of peace. Is that some kind of historical bullshit?
It might sound counterintuitive, but it's true. Once they conquered an area, they were surprisingly tolerant of different cultures and religions. They focused on trade and stability, which benefited many of the regions under their control.
So it's like, we just kicked your ass, but now let's all chill out and make some money. Not the worst strategy, I guess.
Exactly. Of course, it wasn't all peace and love. The Mongols could still be incredibly brutal when it suited them, but their empire did have a positive impact on many aspects of Eurasian society.
Well, that's surprisingly wholesome for a bunch of guys who used human shields.
It just goes to show history is full of contradictions, and the Mongols are a prime example of that.
All right, so we've learned about their brutality, their brilliance, their horses, their weapons, their tactics. I think it's safe to say the Mongols were a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. They were masters of warfare, innovators, and, for better or worse, world changers.
It's mind-blowing to think how much these guys accomplished starting from basically nothing. It makes my daily commute seem pretty insignificant.
Well, next time you're stuck in traffic, just remember those Mongol hordes charging across the steppes, conquering everything in their path. It might put things in perspective.
Yeah, I'll probably just stick to complaining about potholes and bad drivers. But seriously, this deep dive has been a wild ride. Who knew learning about medieval warfare could be so damn entertaining?
It's just another reminder that history is full of fascinating stories, even if they're a bit bloody at times.
Damn straight. So to all you magnificent bastards listening, next time you're feeling stressed about your job, your love life, or whatever else is getting you down, just remember those horseback riding psychopaths and be grateful you weren't born in the 13th century.
Stay curious, my friends, and keep exploring the endlessly fascinating, often terrifying history of our world.
And on that note, we're out of here. Until next time, keep it real, keep it raw, and try not to get conquered by any rampaging hordes. Peace out.